And now, coming to you from the Pensado Media Center, powered by Westlake Pro.
The Dubstep Doctor is in the house. Dave's grooving an ITL for you. We've got news you can use. You're at the place. It's Pensado's place.
Hey guys, thanks for coming by and hanging out with us today. Special show. Think you're gonna enjoy it, Herb?
We hadn't been
How's
down
your
there.
week?
Oh, it was good. We're in the midst of live event planning, calendars, business stuff we're doing, some rollouts of some new things.
Normal week.
Normal week. Yeah, exactly.
Normal 2 days.
That's right. You've had some clients in mixing, right?
Yeah. Jake and the boys from Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Schaefer. Yeah.
Is it
Good
coming out
stuff.
well?
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah,
Really
they
good
seem
stuff.
pleased. I always like to walk in and see when your clients are happy.
There's some up and coming cats and show a lot of promise.
Because when they're not pleased, I hear about it. So I haven't heard anything, so that's a good thing. Shall we get to it?
I'll forward you the emails.
Okay, damn. I thought you and Leandro would keep them. How about we get to it?
All right.
Let's go. Hi, audio family. It is absolutely great to see you. We hope you had a fantastic week. As always, we appreciate your likes and subscribes. Can't tell you how important that is to us, and you've just been phenomenal. Yeah. Our partners, they are the Blackbird Academy, Vintage King, Audio Technica, Isotope, The Fab Factory, Avid, Aftermaster, Recording Connection, and Studio 202 DC. Big thanks to them all and all that they do. They've been bringing this show to you now for over 5 years. It's pretty incredible. We got a lot going on. We're in the lab cooking up a very cool contest for you guys with Indaba and Converse rubber tracks. We'll let you know about that really soon, probably within a week or so. A whole bunch of other things are in the planning, and we won't dangle them to you, but stay tuned. Your calendar is getting ready to be very busy with Pensado stuff. I was reading something this morning, and Vice is a really cool. As we fancy ourselves a media company, and we try to do that, Vice is really something interesting to watch because they're indie but big.
Yeah, their documentaries are as good as it gets.
Just unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. So they're doing this new docuseries about musical scenes from different parts of the globe, and really interesting one. The first one is called Reservation Rap, and it's about music on a Native American reservation in I think it's called Red Lake in Minneapolis, I think, in Minnesota. And they're going to do other things like Brazil and Iceland and Vietnam. So we'll tell the folks about it.
Yeah,
and
keep
just
me posted. I'd like to watch that.
Well, because I think people don't sometimes remember that so many folks create music, and they do it in their own ways, in their own places, and sometimes their internal cultures, and but all that stuff is to me is interesting.
You've always been aware of that, even more than me. You've always kind of seen a bigger picture for audio than I have.
I think what was weird. I think it was the time I spent in Kentucky. You literally had to. Because where you're positioned, you could hear black music from Tennessee if you positioned your radio properly. That's how long it was. Was no internet, but you grew up on Southern rock, and then you had all these different influences at the time, and you realize there's so much stuff out there that's interesting. So but I think it'd be cool to stay abreast of that stuff.
Please.
I can't talk about it yet, but we had a very interesting movie project that reached out for us yesterday. Very high profile. Wanted to do something. Wait till I tell you about that one.
Does it involve car crashes?
It does, which means Chongor's involved and Leandro probably.
Is there a lot of stuff that blows up?
Yes.
I love things that blow up.
Okay, all right. Well,
let me clarify that. These are new times.
Please. Yeah, absolutely. Contact him, not me.
Yeah, I'm thinking more TNTs, cherry bombs. Like you'll throw a cherry bomb, flush it down the urinal at school, and it blows off the wall.
That kind of stuff. Okay,
not okay stuff.
Not IEDs and things like that. We want to stay.
My heart goes out to those people for sure.
Oh yeah. No, that's been tough. And we're happy that we can have a cool place to gather. It's a safe place to gather and educate and teach people and have some fun. So that sobers you up and realize count your blessings. And you really should count your blessings, audio family, and stay at what we're doing. And remember, with all the Sturm and Drang in the world, stay focused on what you're doing and move forward. Speaking of a kid who has to stay focused on what he's doing, let's give it to our hopped up and happy dubstep and homie from Hungary. He goes by the name of
Django. Every every week.
You need some new hand stuff, brother.
I gotta do something else.
You gotta come up with something. We'll do work. So this is big for you. I know you're excited about this.
Huge show. I mean, I've been following Dr. P since the air raid days back in 2009. So
Wow.
It's been a long time coming, and shout out to Damon Egan for putting this together.
Thank you, Damien. That's a good thing.
Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah, Chungler's been excited about this one. You know, Chungler tries to work me subtly. Hey man, and this starts like 6 weeks ago. Hey, what about that Dr. P episode? Oh, what about it, Chungler? I think we should do it. We'll work it out. 3 days later, hey, did you do anything about that Dr. P episode? So that's gone on now consistently. So kudos to you. We're excited to have
Yeah,
him.
thanks,
Very
Sean.
excited.
And I think we don't delay long. It's so good to have some EDM stuff on finally. But let's
Absolutely.
get to an ITL. You're on Groove 3 all the time now, huh?
Yeah, I'm on the internet a lot, and Groove 3 is a place where I spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
There's always something you want to know more about, and it saves me a lot of time because I'm always on the internet at like 3 in the morning. So I can go there, learn a little bit about Ableton, learn a little bit about this plugin, that plugin, this plugin, that plugin, and then catch up on some new things. By the way, my Ableton's coming really, really
Your
slow.
skills are getting tight.
Leandro's turning into a beast on Ableton.
Oh,
He
is
doesn't
that
even
right?
go on Groove 3.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, no, it really, all kidding aside, it's a great place to get a lot of information. Ran across this during my travels last night, so we're going to play this for you.
In this video, we're going to look at doing more lively filter sweeps by using LFO modulation. So this technique is an absolutely fantastic way to take a normal filter sweep, something that we use in, to be honest, pretty much every single dance track, but take it to the next level, make it more rhythmic, more alive, more dancey, and it's just a really nice touch. So before we get into the hows and whys and what LFO means and all of that stuff, let's give you a before and after so you know exactly what I mean by a filter sweep and then a low frequency oscillation modulation on that filter sweep. So first of all, the normal standard filter sweep, you can see the automation in the automation lane. It's nice and linear, and it's opening up a low pass filter like so, and it sounds a little bit like this. A nice simple filter sweep. In this case, it's a low pass filter sweep, but this technique also works with a high pass. Now, what I'll do in this situation next time I play it through in a few moments' time is apply some low frequency oscillation to the filter sweep. And I'm going to apply it subtly over a rate of about 2 bars. And it has the result of the filter sweep swelling up and down. So instead of the modulation being really linear and really flat, it's wobbling up and down at a rate of about 2 bars. So see if you can hear it. It's definitely quite subtle the way in which I like to use this effect, but see if you can hear how the filter sweep is swelling up and down while at the same time still going generally upwards. It sounds really cool. Check it out. See how it's a really nice subtle way to add a bit more movement and a bit more life to the whole thing? I think it sounds really cool. Basically what's happening is we're using an LFO, which is a low frequency oscillator, basically something that moves backwards and forwards slowly over time. We're using one of these to modulate, which is just a fancy word for change. We're using it to modulate the filter sweep position. So while the filter sweep is going upwards the whole time, it's also moving up and down as well. Effectively, we're taking the filter position and making it wobble up and down slowly according to the rate that we can define in the filter effect. In the case of this example, I used a rate of 2 bars, so it's a slow, gradual thing, but just as easily for some examples, it can work quite well to maybe move it backwards and forwards really fast, say at a quarter of a bar division or an eighth or a 16th. And similarly, you don't have to set a subtle amount like I have in this example, which is basically felt more than it is consciously heard. You can set a high amount and you'll hear it as an effect, which can be cool, But normally, to be honest, I'm personally at least more of a fan of a subtle modulation, which is, as I say, felt more than it is consciously heard. In this example, with that low frequency oscillation, you're feeling a bit of life, a bit of movement in that filter sweep, but you're not hearing it as a low frequency oscillation on the filter sweep. Let me show you again. I think it works extremely well. I just love how you can't consciously hear it, but you do hear that movement and it brings the whole thing to life. It's worth noting as well that in the case of Ableton, we can do this low frequency oscillation in the auto filter effect on the right hand side down here. But in other DAWs, you can do just the same thing, but maybe the buttons will be in a different position. So have a dig around and you'll eventually figure out how to do this low frequency oscillation in your DAW of choice. And there you go, that is a look at making our filter sweeps more lively and exciting by using LFO modulation. Thanks for watching.
He is absolutely one of the acknowledged dubstep masters. We are thrilled to have him at the desk. Even better, he is in Aries as well. April 9th is his day, all the way from England. Chongor is thrilled, as is Tyler, my stepdaughter. Here is, and we welcome to the desk, Dr. P. What's up, man?
Dr. P.
How's it going?
You good?
Thank you guys for bringing me on. I'm a big fan.
Oh, we are too. Big
Listen,
fan of yours.
my team and my stepdaughter, first of all, here's what I didn't realize. During her high school years, she's now 22, I listened to more of your stuff and didn't know it was your stuff for years.
Oh, really?
And then I'm researching this morning, and my stepdaughter's room is down the hall. And I put on something of yours. I was just going through it. And I have never seen her move so fast and at an angle. She came around the corner like a Fast and Furious car, just like leaning into the wind and said, "You're playing Dr. P. What's going on?" I said, and then I sort of loked up and said, "Well, he's on the show." "What? You didn't tell me he's on the show? Can I come?" I was like, "He's going to Skype in." I don't care. So you caused a lot of drama in the Trolloc household this morning. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead, DP. Hit it.
Dr. P, some people aren't quite, everybody hears the term dubstep, but some people don't quite know exactly what it is. From one of the great masters, explain from your perspective, when you think dubstep, what do you think, and how can you explain that to a rocker that doesn't know about it?
Dubstep's like a weird thing. Like when dubstep first came out, I think it was almost like a cultural movement. Kind of like, I see it similar to like rock and roll, how it kind of just changed everything. And dubstep sort of like, I guess it like launched a load of electronic music into the public eye. So I think a lot of people see dubstep as just like a load of electronic noises that sounds like a headache, or people call it robots having sex and things like that. But I've always seen it as kind of more than that. Like it was like, for me, when I first heard dubstep, I was like, this is the music I've been waiting for. This is the music I've wanted to hear for so long. And so I think that's kind of how I describe it to people. It wasn't so much about the tempo or the sounds that people were using. It was the fact that it was something completely new.
Yeah.
That just, it kind of changed the way everybody felt about music at the time, I think.
Yeah. The people that I have seen who love it, whether my house or friends or otherwise, the reaction is just like rock and roll, in my opinion. The energy of it, the drops, the other kinds of things, and the ability to kind of be rebellious inside it in a controlled way where the audience can really let go and the music reflects their... Am I close? Is that some of what you see?
Yeah. I mean, when it first came about, I guess it was about 2008 or so, it was so refreshing. It felt like I could really be creative. Like it felt like there was just so much scope for doing new stuff. And I guess a lot of producers felt like that.
Would you say that in London, in England, particularly London, the music scene changes almost weekly there, and it felt to me like like there's some drum and bass with garage and drum and bass and grime, and then mixed in a little bit of reggae, and somehow that came out sounding like something very unique. And whenever something gets a name, it catches on a lot quicker, and so it got called dubstep. And to Herb's point, Skrillex in America is kind of the guy that popularized it here. And I don't think it's, to Herb's point again, no coincidence that he came from a heavy metal rock background, and that I think that's what enticed him to go in that world, because of that
dubstep,
energy
for
and that
me,
rock.
it's a mixture of all of that stuff. Like there's hip hop in there, there's drum and bass in there, there's garage in there, there's reggae. There's a lot of metal influence as well, like which I think a lot of people don't necessarily recognise straight away. But yeah, I think that's definitely why Skrillex got into it. Like a lot of the grooves for me are very like metally.
Yeah. I think there was a period in the rock and roll space that people called industrial. And there's elements of that in dubstep, in my opinion. And then, so as you watched it and it touched you, how have you seen it evolve over from when you started it to now? Has it had an evolutionary phase?
Yeah, it's definitely sort of cemented as a certain thing now. Like 5 years ago, everyone was being super creative, and it was just everyone was trying new stuff. But now dubstep has become just like one very specific thing. And electronic music, I guess, and bass music has kind of taken over as the new sort of the scene in general, I suppose. Like, because to begin with, dubstep was just 140 BPM. It had to be 140. But now people have just sort of taken bass music in general to this new place where you can do any kind of tempo, and it all fits together now.
I find one of the discussions that goes on, because we really love the space, and we're so glad you came on, because we always want to have really relevant people in the space on the show, because there's so many people that can be on the show, but there's a difference between anybody on the show and relevant people on the show. And we've seen two schools. There's a school that is about production and getting your sort of point of view across, and then there's this other school that is leaning toward having more songs inside the electronic music space, and song structure and hooks and so on and so forth. One, what's your thought about that? And two, have you seen dubstep go through that kind of wrenching process?
Yeah, I mean, dubstep, as it got more and more popular, obviously it definitely became more and more commercial, and it started sort of leaking into the pop world. And so, yeah, it's definitely become a lot more like radio structure. Whereas 5 years ago, you'd have a track that had like a 3-minute intro.
Right.
But now it's like 20-second vocal intro straight into the drop. Like it's become a lot more standardized, I suppose.
I hope you rebel against that notion, please.
Yeah, I definitely try. It's
cool.
tricky sometimes, but I do try.
But that's an Aries thing, brother. You know, hold it for us. I mean, if you have a problem, call me. I got your back.
Don't hope too hard. Your boy over here makes a living getting stuff on the radio. This sounds good.
I know, and when your drops are incredible. I must say, you do.
I need to run a few things. Come on, man.
There you go.
Hey, P, when you think classic dubstep, that someone maybe their first exposure to the medium, to the genre, is there a song that comes to mind that we can direct that newbie to?
I could tell you the first dubstep track I ever heard, which was Roscoe's Cockney Thug. That was the track. When I heard it, it just like a light bulb went on in my head, and I was just full of 1,000 ideas for new tracks. It was just one of those moments.
That's a great feeling. Chongor's over there nodding a yes.
I wish you could see Chongor reacting to what you're saying.
He did it at 140 beats per minute too.
He made yourself explode. If you hear a noise go off, that's Chongor. He just can't handle this, which is such a great thing.
So it feels to me like dubstep is kind of drawing back a little bit and morphing into other things, and people are getting interested in other things. Do you feel like it's growing, staying stable, or is the genre, it'll never go away, it's going to be here forever, so you guys that are hoping it goes away, dream on. It ain't going nowhere. But it feels like it's...
The dubstep, like the 140 BPM thing, kind of seems to have faded into just general bass music now, for me.
Yeah.
I think like bass music or EDM or whatever you want to call it has almost just become its own style, regardless of the individual little pockets of what people are doing.
Do when somebody says to you, or you determine, or your camp determines, you're going to take a radio artist, a Britney Spears, an Ed Sheeran, and you're going to do your version of does that present different kind of challenges? Are you trying to keep sort of the structural part of the song in there, or do you just take it and destroy and do your version? How do you approach that process as a producer?
I mean, I try not to think too much when I'm making music. I just kind of just make the track, and then it is what it is. And I think like a lot of the time, people hear a track I've made and they don't know what to think of it. But because I guess because it came from a place of like inspiration and just sort of going with it.
See that, what you're saying is what I love so much about the EDM space, because I find that there's this liberation in it where you don't have to know everything about Pro Tools. You don't have to know everything about Logic. What you have to do is feel the music and have it really speak to a live audience. And if it fits a couple different criterias, it's good enough. And
I find the tracks that I've really thought about and tried to do them in a certain way and tried to make the mix sound a certain way, they're the tracks that don't work.
Yeah, yep. What I've learned from this show, 99% of our guests, like yourself, literally always talk about character or that happy accident or something that just wasn't planned and turned out to be the thing that touches people. But you have to let yourself go to have that happen. You have
to teach yourself to stop trying.
Yeah,
which is a really weird, difficult thing to do.
It's counterintuitive, but it's also critical, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You did a song called "Going Gorilla." What does dick pie mean? Did I hear that wrong?
I think you might be talking about the bit that says big bass, maybe. Like I recorded my 2-year-old son saying big bass.
Oh my gosh!
So he's not pronouncing it very clearly because he was 2.
It's always good. It's always good when your mix engineer can't hear. That's one of the things. I swear it was a better song. You might want to do a remix with that. I don't want any writer's credit for that.
I'll put Dick Pie in the remix.
But what is that? Is that like 85 beats per minute, 86 beats per minute?
Yeah. 87, I think it might be.
So if you double that, that's a pretty fast song.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the thing I always go for when I'm making a groove. Like, I always tend to have the elements in there, especially the drums. They sound like they're half time.
Yeah.
But I really try and make it feel like it's double time. I think that's especially true in dubstep.
One of the things that caught my ear immediately about your work is you use hi-hats a little differently than most people in music. You use them to convey a sense of double time, and also you set me up with a foundation with a somewhat quarter note kick drum, but then your hi-hat patterns are very intricate, very musical, even polyrhythmic in some points. How did you get that ability? Is that from your childhood or what you listened to?
I started drumming at 13 and had drum lessons for probably about 5 years or so.
And by the way, is that right? Am I right about the hi-hat things?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something I've done deliberately, to an extent anyway. But yeah, I definitely try and get that groove. Because, I mean, especially in dubstep, people tend to have like a super hard kick, a super hard snare. And I don't really do that. I tend to try and see the drums as like a group, like an instrument as a group, almost like when you'd have a drum kit and you'd have the overheads.
Right.
And you mix it as one instrument.
And in terms of the snare, if you're not trying to do a traditional thing with it, what is it that you're trying to accomplish with the snare? Is it a combination of everything that you're looking more for a homogenized type of?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the snare, like a lot of the character of a track comes through the snare. So I try and make the snare a little bit different in every track, a little bit interesting. Try putting some plugin on it I've never used before, things like that. Rather than like I think a lot of producers, especially in EDM, they just have that super hard hitting snare.
Right.
A lot of them still use that 909 snare on absolutely everything.
Right.
And I feel like, I mean, it's not lazy. I don't want to say it's lazy, but it's, for me, the character of the snare is really important.
How come you don't play more guitar in your work? You're a pretty good guitar player. Is it you just can't find a slot for it, or?
I guess I just kind of forget that I can play the guitar.
I'm with you there, brother. I understand that one.
But is live instrumentation things that you ever incorporate?
I definitely have done, but I probably should do more of it, to be honest. I mean, I kind of come from that background, and I was in bands for about 10 years before I even started doing electronic music. So I just did a complete 180 one day, completely stopped. I put away the drums, put away the guitar, and just started making electronic music.
In the bands that you're in, what kind of music was it?
It was like teenage garage bands. We were doing like System of a Down covers and things like that.
That's really cool. And were you able in your Dr. P mode? Are you able to? Do you ever where do you draw your influences from? Is it all in the EDM space? Is it just music in general? Is it
I try really hard not to take influence from other dance music, because I feel like that is how you end up just chasing what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Like I listen to a lot of hip hop, a little bit of metal, and I've been recently listening to a lot more like down tempo electronica sort of styles. So I try and hear little bits in everything, and just take inspiration from everything that I can.
Early in your career, you you were proud to wear the moniker of dubstep. Is it getting a little tiresome now, or are you still just as happy when you get introduced that way?
I feel weirdly like I'm one of the only people left who's associated with dubstep. So I got quite annoyed with it for a while, but I'm quite proud of it now.
Oh, good.
I'm still flying the flag. I'm one of the only people left who's flying the flag for dubstep still.
Well, wear the mantle proud, brother. Yeah. Wear the mantle proud.
Yeah.
To be fair, and here again, I'm not completely 100% versed in the space, but it feels to me, with the limited knowledge I know about the space, is you've taken it somewhere. You haven't just absorbed it and done it really well. You're actually, it feels to me like you're moving it forward. A lot of the stuff I've listened to recently by you is just you being you, and it just comes out that way. And I think people, like I said, we have as a culture an overwhelming need to name everything. And
Yeah.
So in terms of the future, you said that you thought glitch hop would be the future. Are you still predicting that? That was 2 years ago. Are you still predicting that?
Yeah, I mean, I've always felt like glitch hop hasn't had its time. It's like, it's electronic music, and electronic music is obviously like really popular at the moment. And glitch hop for me is very much like hip hop meets electronic music. And I feel like that's just a combination that really works. And I really like the glitch hop vibe. And I don't feel like it's ever had its time. Its time in the spotlight. I feel like it's got to have its time at some point.
Just from a smart-ass perspective, it seems like glitch hop has always been here since the 20s, because it's just mistakes that sound good, and then when you intentionally make those electronic distortion mistakes, it's called glitch hop.
I think dubstep is another example of mistakes that sound good.
All music really.
In general, maybe that, which is...
You know what's so weird, though, to go down a little tangent, I'd love your opinion on this, and Herb, too. It's interesting that the music we fell in love with, the music that solidified our youth, was not perfect. In fact, it was the imperfections that caught our ear. But as music creators, when we sit down to create music, we want an element of perfection. I see that in the studio every day. It's an interesting phenomenon where the generation that's coming up now reveres some of the music from the 60s and 70s, which was incredibly laden with things we hated at the time, but now that's what everybody wants to emulate. Isn't that odd, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to what I was saying about teaching yourself to stop trying. Like, a couple of years ago, I went through a phase where I became like really obsessed with getting everything to sound perfect. And I just wasn't happy with any of my music at the time because I was striving for perfection all the time. But recently I have to remind myself every day in the studio to just put the stuff in the track and just accept that it is what it is.
Another thing you said that struck home with me was, I'm paraphrasing, that in order to really create music, you need to have a certain amount of flexibility. Can you expand on that for me? Because I think I know what you mean, and if you mean what I think that's brilliant, something our audience should pay attention to, that you need flexibility when you create music.
I don't know. What did I say? I don't know what I said.
Dave just said it for you. So
Yeah. So yeah, I guess just I guess a lot of people, they try and follow what's cool and what's big at the moment. Like they'll look at people like Diplo and Skrillex and say, oh, they're really popular. They're like you know, their sound is what people like, so that's what I should do.
And you know what? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, but I think people just need to just go with the flow, just believe in their own style.
The point that you're making I find interesting is that if you're going to copy somebody else, cool, but you're then guaranteeing you'll be second.
Exactly.
Like
yeah.
you're right away
third.
saying, likely third or 300th.
Yeah.
But it takes a certain kind of flexibility and I think courage and stuff to go step out. Switching gears. So what kind of impetus do you derive when you're doing live shows? There's got to be information coming at you that you not only can tailor your live show, but also probably comes back into your production. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like when I spent a lot of time in the studio for years and years, never doing shows, never performing, and then one day I suddenly got all these bookings and started going out to shows, and it completely changed my perspective on the scene. So it definitely had a big effect on like my production.
Do you like the live thing? It's a lot of work.
I've definitely always been a lot more of a producer than a DJ.
Got
I mean, DJing's pretty cool. Obviously, you're standing in front of thousands of people.
Who love you.
Most of them do, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's cool, but it's definitely not where my focus ever was.
Your work has a visual element. Are you pretty heavy into the visual arts, photography, etc.?
Yeah, I studied graphic design.
Oh, that's what it is.
At college, and then I'm quite into photography now. Yeah.
Explain how you incorporate some of that part of your interest into your music.
I mean, I think it's just kind of comes down to, I guess, being artistic and being creative. Like, I feel like I can sort of apply that creative way of thinking to whatever it is I'm doing. So when I'm taking pictures, it's the exact same mindset as when I'm making music. It's just like a creative outlet, I suppose.
Do you ever, like, I find myself sometimes when I'm mixing and creating the panorama that the mix is going to sit in, I have a tendency to put that from a performer's perspective instead of from the audience perspective. So I'll tend to put my hi-hat on the left as opposed to the right. Do you do stuff like that too? Yeah,
I mean, I try not to do stuff on purpose.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I guess it's just experimentation is where you always end up doing the best stuff.
Yeah.
So I think maybe today I'll just put the hi-hat completely to the right and see if it works.
Gotcha.
On the other thing that is of interest that I always find interesting is more and more folks are self-determined today. So they're producers and they may be DJs or they may be artists, but also looking at the business interest and trying to have stuff long term. You'll see people who have label imprints and using social media. You have a label imprint. How much is the business side of it and important to you in terms of not only preserving your craft but setting up a future? And is that something that's part of what you do?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays it seems like you have to kind of do all of that.
Yeah.
But I really dislike all of that now. I wanted to do all that to begin with. Like, I was really into the social media and I was into doing the business side and the networking side. But now I don't know if it's getting older or if I've just become jaded, but I just want to make music now.
Well, you know what? You make an interesting point because it's kind of the way we live. People don't understand the commitment to it. It is, and to
It's just
try
a
to do
lifestyle.
both.
It's not a job. It's not like a hobby. It is just a total lifestyle. You've got to live and breathe it.
You don't get a break from it ever. It's just
Right.
constant. And I've seen it wear down creative people. You know, we're always trying to find some lifestyle balance between what will make this successful, but also keep it organic and fresh. And it's much harder than people understand.
We're currently not doing a great job of that either.
What's that?
Trying to find a balance between everything.
Got it. Well, you know, you're Dr. P, the American version.
Dr. DP. How many artists do you have? Can you tell us name an artist or two on the label and describe them?
Yeah, well, the label is me and Flux Pavilion. We started it with Swanee, who's my manager, and Earl, who's a bass player in UB40. We started it as a foursome. And we've got a couple of artists, Funk Case and Cookie Monster, who have been with us from the beginning.
Oh, wow.
And we've got a couple of new signings that we're quite excited about. I'm really excited about an act called Discord that we've just signed.
Okay.
Very cool.
When can we expect something from them?
We've put out a couple of singles, but I'm hoping they're gonna do something big this year. Do a big single or an EP.
In your, however way the unit looks at it, what turns you on about a signing? What things do you look for?
A lot of artists come to us and ask that. I think they're expecting us to say we want to hear sick bass lines and heavy drops, but I always say we just want someone who's doing something interesting and fresh and cool, and just something that we can say, this is awesome music and we're really excited about it.
See, now that, in my view, that is the insight that separates the winners from non-winners. Because it's one thing to define one other musical thing. It's another thing to say, stand out, you know, do something compelling, be courageous enough to be, right? Does that make sense?
That's what we try and encourage on the label.
Yeah, because nothing's worse than art that's just boring. And even when it's good, you can tell it's not going to connect. Whereas that left-handed thing that you don't think is going to be all of a sudden just, you know, explodes, or at least it draws people to you, and I think that's what you have to look for today. It's different kinds of, and I think that's true in any genre.
And that's where the longevity comes from as well. Like, there's plenty of artists out there who are doing decent music, and they'll have a career. But I think the people who do something truly unique are the ones that seem to last for a lot longer.
Now, this next question, if it comes to you in a high-pitched squeal, it's because it's from a dubstep fan. So Chongor, you got some stuff over there?
We got some really great questions. We got swarmed with questions for this week's show.
Did you just almost, just stumbled?
Yeah, we got swarmed with questions. How many did you write yourself at?
Right, exactly.
0.
That's what fake names under. Go ahead, Chongor.
This first one's from Useless G. What plugins do you use on your bass and synth bus, and does it change from song to song?
I mean, I try and do something different on every song. I find that if I just get into a state of doing the exact same thing every time, it's just not very creative. It never ends up sounding interesting. So it is different every time, but generally it'll be some kind of distortion or saturation.
Chongor, you got another one?
Yep, from Tony Ramos. What's your workflow when creating a new bass patch, and do you tend to focus your attention on getting the sound right in the synth or processing it afterwards?
Good question.
It's definitely a case of getting it right in the synth. Like, not all of my sounds have even got any processing on them. Like, I definitely, like, the synth is what's up on my screen most of the time, getting that sound tweaked to the exact right settings. And then normally I'll kind of group all the bass. I'll have 3 or 4 bass sounds and I'll put them all for a group, and the plugins will go into the group rather than the individual sounds.
Chongor, you got another?
This one's from Andrew Twirling. What plugins or hardware do you use on your master bus?
I'm pretty much zero hardware, totally in the box. It's generally Ozone. Ozone and maybe the SSL bus compressor, the Waves one.
Chongo, you did a fantastic job of making up false names
Those-
for all the
those are-
questions you
those
wanted
are-
to ask. Isn't Tony Romo's, isn't that a barbecue place in Studio City?
That's a real person, I'm telling you.
You know it is.
And by the way, I'm sitting here crossing off all my batter's box.
Sure is. He sure is. Well, then let's put you on the spot, sir. You got your arm loosened up for batter's box?
You want to take it, Chongo?
Dr. P, I
Yeah,
just
you
want
got
you to
it.
know that you are absolutely destroying the set here. There are things, people are running around trying to figure out how to stay in front of all this information. It's fun. It's fun to watch my staff stressed out. It is absolutely wonderful. How much when you go on the road, or when you do, are you going on the road less these days because you don't care about it as much, or picking spots and?
I find that like I've really got sick of doing like bad shows.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I definitely try and do the good bigger shows now, because it was bringing me down doing like small shows to small crowds.
Yeah.
Because it was like ruining my week because I was so exhausted. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I tend to I try and avoid them now if I can, just because I like being in the studio, and my career is based on me being in the studio. So like the more time I can spend here, the better.
And I've never known this, and it'll be the last live thing before. When you do live shows, is there a fair amount of rehearsal before you go out? I guess it depends on the level of productions you have going, or.
I used to rehearse a lot, but I've done so many shows now.
You just know
that
it.
I don't even rehearse anymore. Yeah, I kind of know it so well now.
See,
I could go up there like with a cold and like so tired, just got off a flight, and just my fingers hit the right buttons.
And you're good. Oh, it's kind of like Pensado's place. Well, we're at 267 episodes, or however many number. We get it. We definitely understand that. Now that the fake named guests that Chongo read questions from, no, they're all real.
They're all last
But the
name.
barbecue guy, Tony Romo, I think I want to go there after the show.
Let's do it.
So let's tee up batter's box, and we'll have an international version of it. Are you ready to fire away, sir?
I'm almost ready.
All right, Dr. P, you can say
okay.
whatever the hell you want. Just knock Dave's block off. Into the camera, sir. Rock it.
808.
Don't use them.
Sidechain. Didn't think of that one, did you, Chongo?
Yeah, sidechain on everything now.
Okay. Analog.
The what? Sorry.
Analog.
Oh, analog. A newfound love.
Ah,
Wow, what's this?
interesting.
Garage. Oh, wait a minute. Garage. Garage.
A rediscovered old love.
Okay. Virtual sense.
Massive.
Uh-oh.
Nice.
Trap.
Boring. I'm
Uh-oh.
going to offend a lot of people with that one.
That's all right, man.
Vocals.
Don't really use them that much. But I should probably use them more.
Okay. Reverb.
Valhalla.
Ooh. Love those. Shimmer I use on everything.
Yeah, same.
Record companies.
A necessary evil.
If your studio caught fire and you had to rescue one piece of gear, and it can't be like a hard drive or your computer or your dog or small children, what piece of gear would you rescue?
I've got a little plant in the corner.
No.
I might rescue that guy.
Give me a piece of gear or a mic
No,
or
he's
something.
giving you a piece of gear. That plant in the corner is a very instrumental plant.
It is?
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
my studio is literally a pair of speakers and a laptop. So
There you go.
there's basically nothing I could rescue except the laptop.
And see, what you're not understanding, that the creativity is tied to that plant. That means his future goes with that plant.
Has it got 5 leaves on it?
He's right here.
Here it comes. Here's the
Here
plant.
it is.
Oh, that's
Sweet.
a lovely plant.
Beautiful plant. Absolutely. That's the creative Dr.
kinda-
P tree.
Kind of plasticky.
No, it wasn't plasticky. That's a special, you don't understand. that
Okay,
plant.
judges, how'd I do?
You did good, but you caged you, and so much like cricket, like you don't realize you're getting knocked out of the box in a certain kind
Well,
of way.
he's got that NME underground cred I don't have.
Well, and then you mistakenly tried to pronounce garage like he
I
was.
tried. I wanted to make him
And
feel
listen,
comfortable.
I tried German too, so I absolutely butchered it. So
Say garage one time, Dr. P.
Garage.
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 Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you rolling an
I'm
R
from
in
Canada,
there.
man. I grew up singing "God Save the Queen." Okay.
What's that got to do with garage?
It has to do with the fact that me and him are brothers, and we have an Aries thing, and we have sing the same national anthem. How about that, homie? Dr. P, welcome to the dysfunction of
That's true.
Pensado's Place.
I have no retort for that.
I got to tell you, as we said earlier, it is such a great thing to be able to get, progenitors of spaces who really have been in it and understand it and can explain it and so on and so forth. We're always really delicate about when we go into the electronic dance space about trying to find those people who are actually doing things. And so this was a big get for us. We appreciate it. I hope our craziness didn't make you crazy.
It's been a lot of fun. I love the show. I watch every single show, so it's been pretty damn cool to be involved.
Do you ever get to LA at all?
Yeah, from time to time. I'm coming over in a few weeks, actually.
So when you're here, come by and see us.
Yeah,
come by
come
the
say
media
hello.
center.
Yeah.
Come hang out, and it doesn't
I
have to be
will.
a show. We'll just put our feet up and catch up a bit. Chongor just fell over. he literally, if you heard a thud, that was Chongor. Bring in the defibrillator. Clear. We couldn't be more thrilled. Thanks to Damien. Thank you, your camp. Your camp was just extraordinary. Took care of everything.
Yeah, we've got a great team.
You really have a great team, and as a manager, I observe the great team thing a lot. So tip of the cap to them. Shout outs. You got a family here. You got friends here.
Yeah.
Anytime you want to tell us something, give us an update on something, tell us about a project, please
Okay.
do. We're happy to support.
Yes.
Been amazing. Dave, why don't you take us home?
I was sitting here thinking about a lot of times I work a lot, and sometimes it feels like inspiration has left the room, and you have to find a way to get your inspiration back and that enthusiasm back. And for me, it's traditionally find something online about the underground music movements in London. And I'm a vociferous reader of NME, New Music Express, and Melody Maker, and Dr. P came from the underground movement, and he's above ground pretty solid right now, but I know if we asked him, his heart's still in underground. And a lot of times, like some of my big records, I just can't think of anything special, and I'll listen to some of the underground stuff that's coming from England, and that's an idea. I like that idea. My point is that inspiration can come from any number of places, but it rarely comes from where you're sitting when you need it. So check out other forms of music, like Herb was talking about, the Indian reservations. All of those things can be great sources of inspiration when you get that writer's block, but mixer's block, or whatever it is that you're doing for a creative element. Check out the rest of the world. There's some cool stuff going on, as witnessed by our guest today. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.